Okay, so let's dig into something that feels, well, pretty fundamental to how any group works together effectively. We talk a lot about needing innovation, pushing boundaries.
Hmm.
But then there's this other side, making people feel, secure enough to actually do that, to stick their necks out.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? A definite paradox.
Totally. And there's this great new article from Phoenix Performance Partners that really dives into this. It mentions something striking, like 70% of really high-performing teams, they nail this balance.
That's fascinating because you absolutely need that foundation, that psychological safety. People have to feel okay voicing different ideas, maybe admitting a mistake without fearing they'll get shot down.
Right.
But if that's all you have, things can get a bit stagnant, maybe. You lose that edge, that drive.
Exactly. So that's our focus for this deep dive, exploring exactly that intersection. How do organizations build what this article calls supportive challenge?
Supportive challenge. I like that term.
Yeah. We're going to use the insights from this Phoenix Performance Partners piece to understand how these top teams, that 70%, actually make safety and, high expectations work together, not against each other.
And this really matters for you listening, whether you're, leading a team, part of one, or even just curious about what makes organizations tick.
Definitely.
This isn't just theory. It's about finding practical ways to work better, feel more fulfilled, actually.
Okay, let's jump right into that core tension,
Huh.
the safety challenge thing.
Yeah.
The article makes it clear. Lean too hard on safety, maybe too much comfort, and you risk, complacency setting in. The drive just isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Things get a bit too comfortable.
But flip it. Crank up the pressure without that safety net. You get anxiety, people clam up, they don't take risks.
And innovation just dies on the vine.
Yeah.
It's like tuning an instrument, maybe. Too loose, no sound. Too tight, the string snaps.
Good enough.
Supportive challenge is finding that sweet spot, building a place where people feel secure enough to stretch, to try things, knowing that an honest mistake is a learning opportunity, not a reason to get blamed.
And the article starts with this really vivid example, a finance company, right?
Yeah,
Where the head of sales and the head of underwriting were just constantly at odds.
classic tension there.
Totally. And the CEO tried the usual stuff like, can't we all just get along? Or trying to mediate. Didn't work.
Right, and that really shows you can't just tell people to feel safe or demand they perform better in isolation. It's more complex.
It sets up the need for this supportive challenge idea perfectly.
Exactly. It shows those simple fixes often miss the underlying dynamics.
Now, a really key point the article tackles next is this common misconception about psychological safety. It's not about being soft, is it? Or lowering standards.
Not at all. And they rightly bring in Amy Edmondson's work here, the Harvard professor.
Yeah, her research is foundational.
Absolutely. Her work, like in hospitals, showed safety isn't about no mistakes. It's about being able to talk about them, learn from them.
Okay.
So psychological safety is really about feeling okay taking interpersonal risks, asking a dumb question maybe, admitting you don't know something, proposing a wild idea.
Without feeling like you'll be embarrassed or punished.
Precisely. And the research backs this up, as the article notes. Those top teams, that 70%, they have high psychological safety and high accountability. They work together.
So people feel safe enough to be challenged. Because they trust the challenge is fair, it's about growth.
That's the magic combination, right? When you feel secure, you're more willing to say, okay, I messed up, or I need help, or here's some feedback. Vulnerability becomes fuel for getting better, not something to hide.
Right. Now, the article doesn't spell out like zone 1, zone 2, but you definitely get the picture of what happens when the balance is off.
Oh, yeah.
Like high safety but low challenge. You can imagine that, right? It's maybe nice, comfortable, but probably not much getting done.
Exactly. That's the stagnation zone. You're just sort of coasting, pleasant maybe, but not progressing.
And the flip side, low safety, high challenge.
Ugh. Yeah, that sounds like a pressure cooker. Full of anxiety, people covering their backs, definitely not sticking their necks out with new ideas. Burnout city, probably.
Yeah, definitely hinders innovation. Which brings us back to that finance company example in the article. They had the conflict, but then they had a breakthrough. It started with rethinking their purpose.
That was key. The article really highlights this. They stepped back and realized, okay, we're not just here to make money. Their real purpose was helping small businesses succeed financially.
Okay. A bigger why.
Exactly. That shared purpose became the anchor. It allowed them to start changing how they work together.
So with that clear purpose, they put some specific practices in place to get that safety and challenge.
They did. The article lays out 4 key things. First, they really worked on psychological safety, built norms where people could raise concerns or give tough feedback constructively without, fear of payback.
Made it okay to speak up.
Crucial, because small problems ignored can become huge crises, right?
Exactly. What was next?
Second, supportive accountability. They got really clear on metrics, not just get more customers, but balancing that with credit quality. Everyone knew what success looked like.
So clear expectations, measured transparently, less guesswork.
Exactly. It tied back to that purpose, healthy businesses, not just transactions.
Makes sense. What was the third practice?
Shared outcomes. This was clever. They changed compensation, so sales and underwriting kind of succeeded or failed together.
Oh, interesting. So they had skin in the same game.
Yeah, it shifted things from us versus them to we're in this together. Really fostered teamwork.
I can see how that would change the dynamic. And the last one?
Fourth was structured disagreement. They actually created specific ways, formats, for people to debate ideas productively. So disagreements were about the issue, not the person.
So channeling conflict into something useful, not destructive.
Exactly. Making it okay, even expected, to challenge ideas respectfully.
And the results. The article said they were remarkable.
Yeah, quite the turnaround. Happier customers, more referrals, easier to get new clients, better reputation, and they beat their financial goals too.
Wow. So it really paid off. Literally.
It really demonstrates the power of getting that balance right.
Okay, let's circle back to that term, supportive accountability. The article really leans on this. How is it different from just regular accountability?
Good question. Because traditional accountability often feels, well, punitive, right? It's about finding blame after something goes wrong.
Yeah, who messed up?
Which can kill psychological safety. Supportive accountability is the opposite. It's proactive. It's about setting people up to succeed before things go wrong.
Okay, so less about blame, more about enabling success. What does that look like in practice?
The article points to 4 things. 1, explicit promises, making sure everyone knows exactly what's expected, what they've committed to, no fuzzy goals or assumptions.
Clarity up front makes sense.
2, transparent metrics. We touched on this. Clear, objective ways to measure success. Everyone knows the score.
Right, takes away the subjectivity.
3, developmental support. Crucial. Giving people the resources, the coaching, the training they need to actually meet those expectations.
You can't just raise the bar without giving people a way to climb higher.
Exactly. And 4th, a learning orientation. Seeing failures or setbacks not as blame moments, but as chances to learn, adapt, get better.
That reframing of failure seems huge for safety. If you know a misstep won't lead to punishment, you're more willing to try things.
Absolutely. Which then loops back to the challenge side, because if you have that safety, how do you give feedback that is challenging, that pushes people without damaging that trust?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, isn't it? Giving tough feedback well.
It is. But the article gives some really solid principles.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, focus on the behavior or the outcome, not the person's character. Talk about what happened and its impact, not about who they are.
So not you're lazy, but this deadline was missed, and here's the effect.
Exactly. Much less personal, much more actionable. Second, try to balance the challenge with expressing confidence.
How does that work?
Like, this report needs significant improvement in these areas, and I know you have the ability to get it there. It shows belief alongside the critique.
Okay, this needs work, and I trust you can do it. That feels supportive.
Right. Third, frame feedback as development, not just evaluation. Make it about growth, about the future, not just a judgment on the past.
Like coaching rather than grading.
Precisely. Fourth, be specific. Vague feedback like do better is useless and anxiety-provoking. Tell people exactly what needs to change. Give examples.
Concrete details. Instead of be more strategic, maybe consider how this plan impacts Department X and Y.
Perfect example. And finally, make it a conversation, not a lecture. Invite their perspective, ask questions, listen.
A dialogue. Okay, those are great principles. But the article also mentions needing deeper shifts, like mindset changes, to really make this culture stick.
Yes, fundamental shifts in thinking. One big one is moving from blame to personal responsibility. Instead of whose fault is this, the question becomes, okay, this happened. How am I part of the solution? What can I do?
That's a huge shift. From finger pointing to problem solving.
Massive. Another is moving from feeling powerless to having appropriate authority. People need to feel they actually can make decisions and take action in their area. Accountability without agency is just stressful.
Right. You need the power to actually be responsible. Makes sense. And the last one.
Moving from incongruence to integrity. Basically walking the talk. Leaders, the organization, their actions need to match their words about safety and challenge. If they don't, trust disappears.
Absolutely. Hypocrisy kills culture faster than anything. Okay, so the article gets practical too, right? Tips for different levels. What about for leaders?
Yeah, for leaders, it suggests things like modeling vulnerability while still being confident. Admit mistakes, be human, but also provide clear direction.
Tricky balance, but important. Be relatable, but also trustworthy as a leader.
Definitely. Also, setting standards that stretch people but don't break them. Ambitious but achievable.
Push, but don't push them over the edge.
Exactly. And critically, providing the resources for development to meet those high standards. Can't expect miracles without investment.
Provide the latter, as we said.
Right. Also, creating the structured ways for disagreement we talked about. Making healthy debate normal. And celebrating productive failures. Showing that learning from risks gone wrong is valued.
Okay, so leaders set the tone, provide resources, and model the behavior. What about for teams themselves? What can team members do?
Teams can create their own norms for feedback, agree explicitly on how they'll talk to each other, challenge each other supportively.
Take ownership of their own microculture.
Yeah, and do learning reviews focused on growth, not blame. After projects, ask, what did we learn? Not who messed up.
Reinforces that learning orientation.
Also, practice constructive dissent, make it normal to question things respectfully, and try to balance advocating your idea with being curious about others' ideas. And always keep the focus on shared goals.
So build those habits of open communication, learning, and shared purpose within the team. What about the whole organization? Systemic stuff.
Big picture, yeah. The article says align rewards with the balanced behavior. Recognize people not just for results, but for how they get them collaboration, safe risk-taking.
So incentivize the culture you want.
Exactly. Also, measure both performance and safety well-being. If you track both, you pay attention to both.
What gets measured gets managed.
You got it. Invest in training feedback skills, conflict skills, create cross-functional projects to break down silos, build a strong learning infrastructure, ways to share knowledge easily.
Weaving it into the org's DNA, basically. Okay, the article wraps up by emphasizing just how demanding this is for leaders, right? These paradoxical skills.
It really does. It comes back to that core tension.
Yeah.
Leaders need to be vulnerable without giving up authority. Hold high standards without crushing confidence. Give tough feedback without killing potential.
Right.
Invite dissent without creating chaos. Allow failure without allowing incompetence. It's a lot.
It really sounds like walking a high wire.
Yeah.
It's not choosing A or B, it's constantly adjusting between them.
That's a great way to put it. And the article suggests leaders need to tap into a deeper purpose, go beyond just default strategies to navigate this well.
And if they manage it, if an organization gets this balance right, what's the payoff? The transformational promise.
The promise is pretty profound, according to the article. On an individual level, people discover capabilities they didn't know they had.
Wow.
Teams start achieving things that seemed impossible before. Organizations become way more adaptable, more innovative.
So real breakthroughs.
And for leaders, there's deep satisfaction in seeing people grow, unlocking that potential. It's not just about the numbers.
It's about building something more dynamic, more human, more effective all around.
That's the essence of it. The big message from the article and from these high-performing teams seems to be stop seeing safety and challenge as opposites.
Okay, so the key takeaway really is that powerful synergy. Psychological safety and high expectations aren't mutually exclusive. It's a both hand.
Exactly. They fuel each other when you get the conditions right. They're essential ingredients together.
Right. So maybe instead of just thinking, are we too safe? Or are we too challenging? Here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. Plus maybe one small concrete thing you could do, starting today, in your own team, your own role, to help cultivate an environment where both safety and challenge can actually thrive together. Just one step.